Okay, I think we're close. I got a bunch of you jumping on here. It's officially time to start the webinar. I'm going to wait another 30 seconds here because, um, you know, some people are pleasantly tardy. All right, good to see you coming. Keep coming. Who else we got going on here? Good. Welcome. Good to see you guys. We're going to do another Christian sales training here. I know a few of you guys were on the last one. This one's similar, but I upgraded a little bit and added some more stuff to it. So still maximum amount of learning in minimum amount of time. So I appreciate you all being here. And looks like we got a good crowd coming in. And a lot of people that I do know, but there's a few of you I don't know. It looks like you're from out of town. So I just want to respectfully say hello and God bless you and welcome to this Prosperous Christian Sales Training webinar. So we'll get started here in about a minute. Let's see, a bunch more people are jumping on here. I'm going to mute my phone. That way we don't get disturbed. All right. Okay, good. Good group here. Again, once again, say hello to everybody. Welcome to the Prosperous Christian webinar. Glad that you could be here. We got some exciting information for you. Hopefully, this is something you can implement right away. I mean, this is a soft topic in a way. Soft topic meaning I'm going to make you feel good. I'm going to motivate you, jump up and down. But then it's a very hard topic. I'm going to give you very specifics on what you should be doing day in and day out as a prosperous Christian salesperson. So, of course, as you guys know, I use a lot of scriptures. I highly recommend you at least write down the scriptures. You can go back and research them yourselves. And the word research itself is research. So search the scripture again after it's been researched and get some more out of it. So hopefully it's an ongoing learning. So Heavenly Father, thank you for this awesome webinar. Thank you for the privilege we have to be together and grow our businesses together. Thank you that we know that you wish above all things that we prosper and be in health. And thank you so much, Father, for your hedge of protection around us and your hand of blessing upon our businesses and our lives and on our families. Thank you for this in the name of your powerful Son, Jesus Christ. Amen. Boom. All right, so welcome to the broadcast. I'm going to jump right into it. Again, maximum amount of learning in minimum amount of time. And let me, what I'm going to do is share my screen here. Hold on. Make sure everybody can see it. Welcome. A few more of you guys just jumped on. I appreciate that. All right. Let's see if can you see my screen? All right. Let me. I'm gonna have to tab over. So let me see if it's recording right. Last time I had it all messed up. So yes. It looks like it's working now. So all right. Cool. We got everything working right. So that's what I want. All right. Welcome to Prosperous Christian, prosperouschristian.com. If you want more information, there's a ton of free training on there, free webinars, a bunch of videos, and of course articles on there. And I highly recommend you, if you haven't done it yet, recommend that you download the 47-page ebook called Prosperous Christian, the 10 Commandments of Prosperity. It's definitely worth your read. You can do that at prosperouschristian.com. My name is Eddie Hill, and I'm the founder of this wonderful, awesome group called Prosperous Christian. We're kind of a network group of Christian business professionals and Christian business owners, and we have all walks of life, from accountants to plumbers to legal fields to a little bit of everything, and awards business and as well as online marketing. So real happy to have everybody here. Thank you guys again for coming and taking some time out of your evening. So with that, 3 John 2 says this. God says, Beloved, I wish above all things that thou mayest prosper and be in health, even as thy soul prospereth. So God is telling us He wants us to be prosperous, by His definition of prosperous, right? So above all things, that's a lot, that we be prosperous and in health. And that's the two things we definitely want in this life. And if we go back to the scriptures, and we can always find the things that we need to do this. So if he wants us to be prosperous and in health, he must give us a way, or give us instructions of how to do that. So 2 Peter 1:3 says this: according as his divine power hath given unto us all things that pertain unto life and godliness through the knowledge of him that hath called us unto glory and virtue. So he's saying everything you need in this life to prevail, to have a life that's more than abundant, to have life that's prosperous, is in my word. So he's telling us all things that pertain to life, which is the physical things, and all things that pertain to godliness, which is the spiritual things, is in his word, and through the knowledge of him that has called us unto glory and to virtue. That's comforting. So if we have questions, guess what? God has answers. And here's a few of them. So as Christian salespeople, we want to have success. Obviously, sales has been around since Adam and Eve in a form passed down. They lived to the 7th generation, a little over the 7th generation, but I know they taught to the 7th generation. But in that time, they had to do some selling sometimes, right? So sales, by definition, is not a bad thing. It's neither good nor bad. It is what you make of it. In fact, to make the world go around, you have to do some form of sales. Nothing happens until a sale is made, right? That's the old adage that we hear out there. Now, we know we can't do this. We can't stick our head in the sand and just sit there and go, what are we going to do? We hope people come to us. The world doesn't work that way. We have to be semi-aggressive in a positive way to go get new business. Otherwise, we stick our head in the sands. We're going to fail. We're going to fail dramatically. It's definitely not a way to be prosperous. Okay, so the traditional sales process is over 30 years old. It was trained and taught in many classes and seminars back then. Some of you guys know these trainers. They taught the best they could back then, and it was a great way to sell back then. Actually, it worked. It was the way to do things. People was respected. Well, all that's kind of fallen apart. It worked because customers or prospects had no access to the internet. They didn't have global superstore competitors. They didn't have people down the street that do the exact same thing, sell the exact same thing. They weren't able to instantly research you and all of your competitors on your reputation or your background, or research what you have and what's available, and price shop like they can today. Like no other time in the history of the world could they do that. 30 years ago, it didn't matter. Rarely was there anybody in competition to you. A lot of times you could actually be a horrible business owner, a horrible salesperson, and sell a lot because they needed what you had. There was no other person to go to. Well, that's not the case anymore, and it will never be the case again. There will always be options, always be other alternatives they can go do. So back then they made decisions on clear criteria. Nowadays it's not so clear, is it? We're faced with a market in which technology and the change that it makes purchase obsolete overnight. Some changes that are online or some purchases make them obsolete overnight. So we're really hesitant to buy things, right? Especially these large ticket sales items, whether it's software or computers or anything else in that matter. As business owners, we're real hesitant to buy things. So as salespeople, we need to change our process. So back then, trust was very high and all alternatives were very low, as I mentioned. That is exactly the opposite today. Trust is extremely low. In fact, all-time low, and of course the options are all-time high. So that equates to a bad situation for us salespeople. So none of this is true today. So the Christian sales process, this is kind of how we look at things. So the Christian sales process recognizes that customers have instant access to unlimited information on you and your competition. They're going to research you. And not only do they have access to it, they're going to actually use that access and look into it. Customers are faced with innumerable choices and options from which to select, including doing nothing at all. That's a key. You want to put that in the back of your head. One of the options they can choose is do nothing at all. We'll talk about that later. Customers can spot the convenience, or the convincing dance. You're trying to convince them to buy something, but we don't do that as Christian salespeople. Well, we want them to buy something because it's good for them. And in the end, if it's good for them, it's good for us. It's a win-win process, and that's what God wants. It's always been that way. If it's win-win, then it's okay. If it's not, if somebody loses, then that's not the way to sell, right? So anyway, Cheese and Whiskers, I wrote an article. It's on the website if you want to look it up. It's talking about how to, Whiskers being a cat, we don't want to be, selling with whiskers. We want to sell with cheese. Okay, this Christian sales process is this, and we're going to go over this in detail. So number one, God first. Done. We got to put Him first. Everything else falls apart when we don't. Number two, have enthusiasm. Number three, get them to know, like, and trust you. Give and it shall be given unto you. Number 4. Number 5, work heartily as unto the Lord. Number 6, execute with consistency. This is where a lot of us fail. And number 7, under promise and over deliver. So let's get right into this. God first. This is a no-duh statement. I have to put this in here. It's actually the first commandment in the book of the Prosperous Christian. So when everything is out of a line, if we're greedy or we try to put ourselves first, we try to put the company first, we try to put whatever, anything before God, that's called idolatry, right? Anything before God is idolatry, and it doesn't have to be as extreme as like worshiping a golden calf or something like that. It could be simply working, putting your job first is not putting God first, right? Or putting something before God, and we don't want to have idolatry in our lives. So first and foremost, if we put God first, everything else will fall in place. And same thing with our jobs, and same thing with our sales aspects. So Exodus 20 verse 3 says, you shall have no other gods before me. Obviously, God puts this verse first in the 10 Commandments because it's first in importance. Genuine spiritual and physical prosperity can only happen if we put God first. It's indisputable that all forms of prosperity will eventually fall apart if God is secondary, thirdary, fourthary, etc. I know those aren't words, but the point is, if you don't put God first, and he takes a back seat of some form, everything will fall apart eventually. At first, it may look really good, but eventually it has to fall apart. That's actually guaranteed. On the other hand, prosperity is guaranteed if we put God first and follow these commandments, right? Seek ye first the kingdom of God, and all these things shall be added unto you. Matthew 6:33. And those are our basic needs, but I'm going to show you also, after our basic needs are met, he'll give us forms of prosperity beyond the basic needs, which includes physical, mental, spiritual, social, professional, familial, and of course financial, which is one part of prosperity. So, number 2, number 1, you put God first. Number 2 is you need to have enthusiasm. I just wrote an article on this. Hopefully you read it. If not, it should be in your email inbox, or I think I posted it on the website as well. But enthusiasm is essential to sales, because if you're not fired up about what you're offering and what you're selling, why would your prospect be? I mean, it's given. I'm a business owner, obviously. I have a few businesses, and I have salespeople try to pitch me almost daily. 3 to 5 times a day, I will get a call, but then they want to come in and try to pitch me something. Of course, I'll listen to a couple of them if it makes sense, and I think it's something we have to do. But it's amazing how many people they're not fired up for what they're selling. And I'm going to tell you right now, and I'll be brutally honest with you, you need to move on. If you don't believe in your product, if you don't believe in what you're selling, you don't have enthusiasm for it, then man, there's too much life left to do that. You need to move on to something that you have enthusiasm for. So I wrote this in the article. The Greek origin of the word enthusiasm means inspiration or possession of God. So when early Christians saw someone convert, they became born again. The way to describe that emotional charge that they would get, that overwhelming joy that followed with them being born again, they called it in theos, T-H-E-O-S, which together means God within. In other words, means to be so inspired that God Himself dwells within you. That's where that word in theos or enthusiasm comes from, which is awesome. That's how we should be. We have God within, so we should have enthusiasm with whatever we do. We'll talk about that more later on too. So the last 4 letters of the word enthusiasm is IASM, which is an acronym for I am sold myself. Again, you need to be sold on what you sell. That kind of enthusiasm comes with a great product that you are sold on with yourself. If you're currently selling something you're not completely sold on, do one of 2 things. Resell yourself on the merits. In other words, get reinvigorated, get that enthusiasm back in there, and understand that this is good for them, your customer, prospect, and it's also good for you and your company, and everybody wins. Then you can have that enthusiasm. Or number 2, like I said, you need to move on. You need to stop selling it. You need to just hang up your hat and say, sorry, I don't believe in this product, which I've done in my past, because this just comes a point where it was great and I believed in it, and then it just no longer was working. So you move on. Next circle of life, right? Okay, number 3, get them to know you, to like you, and to trust you. So people do business with people, and I want to stop right there. People do business with people. These are not machines. These are not recordings. These are not robots. When we sell something, whether it's, I mean, it could be online marketing, it could be plumbing, it could be, I mean, it could be any lawn care service. They do business with, you're dealing with people. So you want to get them to know you, like you, and trust you, because everything else falls into place when you do that. But you have to be known, for one. You have to get out there and be known. Number two, you have to be likable. And three, you need to be trustable. And we're going to talk about that. Know, like, and trust. People do business with people they know, like, and trust. That has to happen, kind of pretty much in that order, but it has to happen before you make a sale. Now that can happen very quickly. I promise you, it can happen very quickly. So I'm a speaker, you know, guys. I go public speak, and I'll be speaking in Atlanta in a couple weeks. When you get up on stage, half that audience or three-quarters of that audience doesn't know who I am from anything, but I can speak and earn I get to know me because, you know, they introduce me or whatever. They begin to like me because of my dumb jokes. Maybe, I mean, I hope they like me by the end of my my speech, and then they begin to trust me because I'll give them trust factors of other clients, other customers, or whatever that they know and they respect, and so they begin to know, like, and trust. Within a half hour, I can get half the audience or all the audience to know, like, and trust me, and then I can ask them to buy something, and a large majority of them will. You know, and so as a salesperson, I have closed 60% of the audience before, and of that audience, probably 80% of them had no idea who I was, maybe 90% of them actually. So, but what I did first is I got them to know me, then I got them to like me, then I got them to trust me. So that process has to happen. It can happen fast, but it has to happen. Some other things, some longer-term sales like insurance or big ticket items, it's going to take longer to get people to know, like you, and trust you. Smaller ticket items, maybe not so fast. So number 4, give and it shall be given unto you. This is Luke. I'm telling you, Luke 6:38. This is very important because what this is doing, and God is telling us, the moment we, obviously we put God first, but the moment we put after God, we put our prospects or our customers first, and we think about what's good for them and give to them first, then it comes back to us. And instead of taking me, what's in it for me, what do I get out of this? And we give, it all comes back. And not necessarily, this is the law of the universe, not necessarily from the same person you give to. So give and it shall be given unto you, good measure, pressed down, shaken together, and running over shall men give into your bosom. With the same measure that you meet withal, it shall be measured to you again. So how much you give, it comes back to you in that same measure. Interesting, isn't it? So how do you get people to like you? There's many ways, but one, if you're a genuine giver, it's impossible for them not to like you. In other words, if you're trying to help people out without any strings attached, let's say, hey, I thought I'd give this article to you because it, it looks like it, something about your business, or hey, let me buy you lunch and talk to you, but no strings attached. I'm not here to sell you anything, pitch anything. I don't want you to buy me lunch in return because that is not giving, right? That's a trade-off. But with no strings attached, if you're a genuine giver, people automatically begin to like you, right? Now, don't do it in a cheesy way, but you want to give, right? So give the same way, and it shall be measured unto you. So let them see the genuine you. So when you're giving, you want to have them see you. So you get to know people. Eventually, they get to like you because, hey, this guy's pretty cool. Now, we can do that with social media. You want to show them the real human being, the real you, what you do. Now, you don't want to be, no raunchy jokes, no, bad political things. You want to stay away from all the negative aspects that you can do on social media. I'm not saying I'm the absolute pro on social media, but I always try to keep it positive. I always try to get people to see what I'm doing in my life. There's good things with my family, whether it's vacations or just things we're doing in the community. Every time we help out with a nonprofit or we help out with some organization or we're donating or we're giving, that's what I show on the social media. Because when other people see that, they're like, man, this guy is a pretty cool guy. He's always out doing something. He's doing good things for the community. That's how you get people to like you. So now don't be pompous about any of this. I'm just saying that you need to get people to like you, and part of that is just to show them how much you're involved with your church, your community, with the things that you're doing. So I also do newsletters. That's a great way to get people to know you, and emails, and you guys know some of the other ways. Emotional bank account. This is a training in itself. It's probably a 5-hour training. I love it. This is something I think about daily. So in your circle of influence, whether it's your family members or your other coworkers or your boss, where do you stand in the emotional bank account? Are you overdrawn? Are you in the red? Or are you in the black? Have you made deposits? And here's the thing. It's kind of like one of those dumb gift cards you get at like CVS that you put $50 on it, but next month it only has $45, and the month after that it has $40. It goes down every time you don't use it. It goes down like $5 a month for fees, or I don't know why it goes down, but it does. But in 6 months, you don't have any money in that bank account. Well, it's the same way with the emotional bank account. If you make a nice big deposit and you go do something really cool for somebody, you help somebody move. Let's say you go help somebody move, which is a humongous deposit, by the way, because most people don't want to help people move because it's a pain and it's hard work, all that stuff. But okay, so you help somebody move. Well, that was 8 months ago, but you haven't done anything since for them. Well, that emotional bank account is already drained. It's all that equity you had built up is gone. So now, it doesn't matter with what their bank account is with you. Forget that. It's not about you, right? So we're not being selfish here. It's give, and it shall be given unto you. So we're giving to them. We're not worried about what's given back to us. So remember, it's no strings attached. If we go help them move, they don't have to come help us move or whatever. You know what I'm saying? But you need to make deposits. So make a list like this one here: dad, mom, brother, whatever, your coworkers, your boss, and say, what have I done for them in the last month? I do it on 30-day increments, and I try to do something, especially for my immediate circle of influence. Every 30 days, you got to do some great thing. It doesn't have to be astronomical. It can be very simple. Just knowing that you're thinking of them, give them a thank you card, or send them a birthday card, or like I said, it always helps to just tell them thank you and hang out with them. Go buy them a coffee or something, but no strings attached. That's the key to the emotional bank account, right? So, as I said earlier, this is it. Focus on their ROI. What is their return on investment? So if you're going to a prospect, it's not about you. You can stand there all day long. They call it, I can't remember what the old school trainers used to say. They call it spilling your candy in the lobby. In other words, you talk about your business the whole time, and we have the best the flux capacitor. Nobody else beats it. Well, how does that equate to them? So, features, benefit kind of thing. So when you're there, ask a lot of questions. We know biblically that we should ask and listen twice as much as we should speak. That's why we have 2 ears, one mouth, right? You've heard that before. Well, that's true. Very true in sales. And what we want to ask, very pointed questions. What are they trying to accomplish in their business? And then we need to ask them how they're trying to grow the business and how we can fit in to help them grow their business. Either grow their business or save them money. That's the only two options. That's the only reason why we're in sales. We're selling them something to grow their business, or as a person, if we go sales one-on-one, same thing. It's either pain or pleasure, right? We're trying to help them get out of pain. For some, this is the new vacuum cleaner that is, it'll speed up your vacuum time by, it'll cut your vacuum time by 2/3. It'll only take 10 minutes to vacuum, whatever. I don't know. But you either solve their pain or you increase their pleasure. Well, the same thing with business owners. So you're either going to increase their income, their top line, or you're going to save them money on the bottom line. So that's what you're thinking the whole time you're there. How can I help them? How can I help you? So when you're sitting in front of a prospect, your job is to figure out how can I help you. And guess what? That doesn't stop when they become a customer. Your job is to adjust, look at, you need to overcome, adapt, and look at new things every so often with your customers to figure out if they're still getting a return on investment with you. Because if they're not, guess what? Eventually they're going to leave you, right? So make sure you look at that. I kind of hammered on that, but I think that's very important to see. Number 5 is work heartily as unto the Lord. I see this time and time again. Man, if you don't have that enthusiasm, it's hard to work heartily, right? So, but work heartily and so whatsoever you do it heartily as unto the Lord and not unto the men. Colossians 3:23. We know this. We've heard this before. But really think about this. Put this in perspective. This is very true. You're not working for the machine. You're not working for the company. You're not working for the, even the boss, right? You are working for Jesus Christ. Think about it that way. Now, how much easier is it to get up and go to work on time and work hard when you know your boss is Jesus Christ? Pretty easy, right? I hope so. I hope it changes your mindset. This is biblical. This is true. And if you put this in perspective, I promise you it makes it easy to go to work every day. In fact, Mondays, you won't dread Mondays. You'll actually enjoy it and say, I'm going to work for the Lord. And you go there and you work heartily, and then you can sleep at night knowing that you did your duty. You did at least $1 worth of work for $1 wage, and that is awesome. Hopefully we do a little bit more than that, but that's the bare minimum, right, as a Christian salesperson. So work heartily as unto the Lord. And whatsoever you do, do it heartily as unto the Lord, not unto men. Colossians 3:23. Here we go again. Not for the machine, secular occupation, or anything else. Okay, so I want to touch on procrastination because I think it's a huge problem around the world, but I know it's a gigantic problem in America. Procrastination is when you put something off that you should be doing, right? And the reason why we are procrastinating, some of us, is for two reasons. It's either laziness or pain, right? You put it off because it's painful to do it. So let's say it's cold calling. So you procrastinate about picking up the phone and calling prospects because you have this fear of this pain, or you just plain lazy, right? So that's the only two reasons why you put something off. So again, you got to come back to what are you supposed to be doing? What is your job duty? And that's what you're supposed to do. So here's what it says in Proverbs 10:4 and 5. He becometh poor that dealeth with the slack hand, but the hand of the diligent shall make rich. Diligent means people who work hard, right? He that gathereth in the summer is a wise son, but he that sleepeth in harvest is a son that causes shame. Now, that would be unheard of on the farm, right? So yeah, forget it. I'm going to be lazy and I'm going to procrastinate. I'm not going to harvest in the fall. You wouldn't survive. You'd die back in the olden days. You have to harvest. First off, you need to plant and water in the spring. Then you need to pluck all the weeds and keep watering all summer. And then you need to gather it at the fall during harvest time. Well, this is saying here that if you're a slack hand, if you're a procrastinator, man, you're gonna definitely be poor, is what it says, but it's also going to cause shame. The hand of the diligent shall bear rule. The slothful shall be under tribute. So that's Proverbs 12:24. Bear rule means you're going to be in charge. You're going to be a boss. You're going to be a manager. Now, the word shall is an absolute. So the hand of the diligent, people who work hard, shall bear rule. So that means eventually you will get promoted to a manager or you will oversee people. This is guaranteed. The slothful shall be under tribute. That's a guarantee as well. Shall is an absolute in this verse. So look at this. Now, I'm going to tell you, I mean, I wish it was 100% of the time, but almost 98% of the time, if you have been promoted to a management position overseeing other people, more than often than not, you get a pay raise. And that's what we're working at here. We're trying to get financial prosperity a little bit more than what we have now. One of the ways to do that is to be diligent, not slothful, and you shall bear rule. Now, does it say how fast? No. I wish it said in 2 weeks. If you're diligent for 2 weeks, you get a raise, or 2 months, or 2 years, or whatever. But it doesn't. God doesn't give us a timeline. He just tells us to be diligent, and eventually you shall bear rule. It's an absolute. It's guaranteed, but we just don't know how long. So just keep doing it. Work hard. Be diligent, and you will bear rule, which is what we ultimately want to do, get a raise, right? So hard work means prosperity, and only fools idle their time away. So we don't want to be a fool. Proverbs 12:11. So what else does God say about how we should work? In business, it says not to be slothful in business, but fervent in spirit, serving who? Yeah, that's right, the Lord. Serving the Lord. We're not working for the machine or the boss. We're serving the Lord. So we're not to be slothful or procrastination. 2 Thessalonians 3:11 in the Amplified Bible says this, indeed, we hear that some among you are disorderly, that they are passing their lives in idleness, neglectful of duty. That's a good definition of procrastination, isn't it? Being busy, though, with other people's affairs instead of their own and doing no work. Wow! That is a powerful scripture. 2 Thessalonians 3:11. Write that down and go look that up, because we do not want to be that. And guess what? Every one of us on this webinar knows at least one person that is exactly this description, right? They're busy with other people's affairs, but not doing their own work. And we can't be that way. As Christian salespeople, especially as prosperous Christian salespeople, we cannot be this way. And the good news is I know nobody on this webinar is. So, but make sure you stay away from that. Don't be busy with other people's affairs. The Christian salesperson, on the other hand, Colossians 3:23 says this, and whatsoever you do, do it what? Do it heartily, with your whole heart, as unto the Lord and not unto the men. We already talked about that. It says in 2 Chronicles 31:21, he did it with all of his heart, and he what? He prospered. Isn't that what this webinar is about? How to prosper as Christian salespeople? How to bring in more abundance in our life in all categories, physical, mental, spiritual, and of course financial? Yes. Well, that's how we do it. We do it with all of our heart. We work heartily. We don't procrastinate. We don't get caught up in idle time with other people's affairs. And we work heartily, and we prosper. Psalms 90:17, and let the favor of the Lord our God be upon us, and establish thou that the work of our hands upon us, yea, the work of our hands establish thou it. So that's a great prayer we can pray to God. Let the favor of the Lord be upon us, Lord of our God. And of course, we want him to establish the work of our hands. And I take that. I say this verse a lot because there's days that I seem like I'm working really hard. Actually, I actually physically am working hard, but I'm spinning my wheels. So I don't know if anybody have ever been. I hope you can relate, but I hope it's not just me. Maybe it is. But anyway, some days I really did work hard, but I didn't get anything accomplished. All I did is spin my wheels. Sometimes I went backwards. So that's why I wrote an article called "The Muddy Mountain." And it's on the website, and I think I just emailed a bunch of you about that. But the Muddy Mountains is 2 steps forward, 1 step back. As long as we have at least 2 steps forward and 1 step, and only 1 step back, we're taking ground, right? We're climbing that muddy mountain. Well, we want the favor of the Lord to be upon us and establish the work of our hands. We don't want the work to be spinning our wheels, sitting or spinning out and not doing anything. In other words, work all day long to not get anything accomplished. So I pray this prayer. This is a great prayer to think about and pray. And God wants to establish our work. He does. And he wants us to make sure that we're taking ground and not spinning our wheels. Now, Ecclesiastes 2:24 says, a man could do nothing better than to eat and drink and find satisfaction in his work. My dad used to say, I don't care if you're a ditch digger, be the best darn ditch digger you can be and be proud of it and find satisfaction. And that is great advice. I'm telling you that as well. A man can do nothing better than to eat and drink and find satisfaction in his work. This, too, I see is from the hand of God. And whatever we do in this circle of life, whether we change jobs next month or next year, that we should be proud of what we do, and we should work heartily, and we should find satisfaction in that. And we should sleep well at night knowing that we did our best for his highest, and we move on to the next day. And we continue to do that, and we shall bear rule eventually, right? Number 6 is execute with consistency. I really think if you were to reverse engineer problems with salespeople, especially Christian salespeople even, well, all of them, but Christian salespeople, we're not consistent, right? We're not doing what we should be doing on a daily basis or on a weekly basis to execute with some sort of consistency. In other words, we don't have a plan, or if we do have a plan, we're not working the plan. So Luke 16:10 says this, he that is faithful in that which is least is faithful that also that is much. And he that is unjust in the least is also unjust in much. In other words, if we're not following the daily tasks that we're supposed to be doing, if we're supposed to be making cold calls, or we're supposed to go walk into 5 businesses a day and drop off a packet or a business card, and we don't, then we're not faithful in the least things. So how can you bless us in the big things if we're not taking care of the small things? So set a plan. Every day I'm going to do this, and then execute with consistency. I used to do a thing, and I can't get too much on a tangent here, but when I first started out in sales, I was doing radio sales. I wrote down every day in my daily planner. That's back when they had Franklin Covey planners. Every day I wrote this thing called a batting average, BAT, batting average. Every day, every night, and before I went home, I'd write my BAT. B was behaviors, my A was attitude, and then my T was technique. So my B, I would score myself on a 0 to 10. Did I do the behaviors today? And my behaviors was my goal. I was supposed to call on 10 businesses a day. Okay, and I think that's what I did. So did I hit 10? And I would write. I would 0 to 10. I would if I only saw 8 that day, I'd write out an 8 or a 4 or 2 or 10 or 12. And so I'd write down, yes, I hit my goal for the B. Then attitude. And some days my attitude would just be, I'll be honest, it wasn't good. So I'd write down a 2. Man, my attitude was horrible today. I got beat up today. I walked in and nobody wanted to talk to me. Nobody wanted to buy a radio. One of those things, which is fine. I mean, your attitude's going to fluctuate. We'll talk about that here in a second. And then the last one was techniques. Did I learn something new? Did I deliver well? Did I have a good technique? Did I follow the system in place for sales? In other words, did I talk about them and their business, how they can get an ROI, or did I talk about me and my business? Did I actually do what I was supposed to be doing when I was out there selling? Am I trying to help them, or am I trying just to make a sell what's good and expedient for me? So I looked at my techniques and I wrote a score, 0 to 10, and that fluctuated. But the key to that whole batting average was the behaviors. Because guess what? If I did the darn behaviors, eventually everything else fell in place. The more I did the behaviors, the better I got at the techniques. And my attitude got better because I was selling more. So write down your batting average every single day and make sure you get a 10 on your behaviors. Do the behaviors you set in place. Do them every single day with consistency, and I promise you, you'll get better. Guess what? The day I remember this specifically, when I first learned this, I wrote down an attitude of 2 because I was ready to quit. I think it was a 2, maybe it was a 1, but I mean, it was bad. My attitude stunk that day. But that was the day I planted a seed. That was the day I cold call on a construction business that turned out to make me $15,000 in commissions. Was the day I had the worst attitude. When I learned that, I went back and looked and put it together. I'm like, well, that was the day I cold called them, which a month later they ended up closing. So I'm like, well, man, why would I ever have a bad attitude? Because I may be just planting seeds for future, for future sales, which we're going to talk about seeds here in a second. But anyway, I went off of that a little bit tangent, but write down your batting average. Make sure your behaviors are consistent. I don't care what they are. You figure that out. That's your goal. You figure out what your goal is daily or weekly, but you need to follow it and stay with it. Consistency, because it comes together. And you know what? God can bless you much quicker and much better if you're consistent with the behaviors and planting seeds and watering. It'll come around. It'll all come around, I promise. Okay, this is the last one underneath this. Under the 7 is under promise and over deliver. I love this. Now in the South here, I know we got a couple people on from out of state, California and New Jersey or wherever, and a few people from around here. But in the South, we call this lanyap. So I looked up Wikipedia here. Lanyap means this: it's a small gift given to a customer by a merchant or salesperson or whatever, or anybody, at the time of purchase. So it's the baker's, dozen, right? The 13th donut when buying a dozen. Or more broadly, something given or obtained gratuitously by way of good measure. So, here's all the background on it. You can Google it too yourself. But here's my point. Under promise and over deliver. And the lanyap part of it, here's the secret to lanyap. It means a little something extra that was not expected. Not expected. So you're going to over-deliver. That's the over-deliver part, right? So if you do this, that's what gets talked about. That's what gets put on Facebook. These guys were incredible, and they did this little something extra. That's the memorable moment of why you'll stand out above every other salesperson or every other company out there, is by the lanyap, the little something extra. It doesn't have to cost you a lot. It just needs to be thoughtful, and it needs to be something they were not expecting. If they're expecting it, wasn't something extra, right? So, and be darn sure that you under promise and over deliver on what you talk about too, right? So don't promise anything you cannot deliver. But beyond that, you want to give them that lanyap, a little something extra. There you go. For you non-Southerners, you just learned a Southern word. Yeah, it talks about chiefly used on the Gulf Coast of the United States. But anyway. Okay, doubt, worry, and fear. You guys know my mission, my mantra on this. If doubt, worry, and fear were liquor and beer, some Christians would be drunk every day of their life. I'm sorry, but I mean that in the nicest possible way. It's a fact. Doubt, worry, and fear puts your foot on the hose of God's prosperity. Doubt, worry, and fear shuts off that abundance that He's trying to give you, because He can't move in that situation. For God hath not given us the spirit of fear, but of power and of love and of sound mind. That's 2 Timothy 1:7. So do not be anxious about anything, but in every situation by prayer and petition with thanksgiving be present, or present your request to God. That's Philippians 4:6. I think that's Amplified version. That's definitely not King James. I didn't write that down. Sorry about that. But anyway, be anxious for nothing, but in everything situation by prayer and petition with thanksgiving, present your request to God. In other words, tell God your problems, your issues, and don't you fret or worry, have fear over it. Because guess what? When God's in it, God plus you equals a majority in any situation. We know this, right? So that's all we need to do. Take it up to God, do what you can, and leave the rest up to Him, and everything will work out just fine. Really, the things that we kind of doubt and worry about and fear about in this life sometimes are the trivial things, right? I mean, they sometimes are, especially in sales. Like, we get so fearful to go sell something, and that's trivial compared to, the spiritual world, right? All right, this is one of my favorite slides. A Harvard study was done by Frederick Reichhold and Earl Sasser, and they actually, I mean, this is an incredible study. Look at this. They did a study on retention and about attrition for businesses. Now they were in insurance, and I think they did it on several different businesses, but it didn't matter. It's all pretty much average. The average attrition for most businesses is 25 to 35% per year, and I'm sure your business probably falls in line right there somewhere. I know my two businesses definitely fall in line with that. But retention is the new acquisition. So we can't burn and churn new prospects like we used to 5, 10, 15, 20, 30 years ago. We got the phone book. We got more prospects. Forget you. We can churn and burn you out. And if you're a customer and you leave us, no problem. We can move on. We'll advertise these car dealerships. Who cares if we make you mad if you walk off the lot? We can burn those prospects because it doesn't matter. We'll move on. We have plenty more prospects. Well, the world ain't that way anymore, is it? So we can't churn and burn, and that's what I mean by retention is the new acquisition. We need to retain our current customers and keep that average attrition down as low as possible. And if you took your attrition from 35% this year to 25% next year, that's a massive increase to your bottom line and less people that you have to go replace, right? So Sasser and the Reichhold dude said 5% reduction in customer defections increase company profits by 25 to 85% because it costs a lot more to get a new customer than it is to keep a current one. I don't know if that's an aha moment. It's got to be an aha moment for you. So write that down. Here's why we lose customers. And this applies pretty much to every business out there. 1% die. I got news for you. You cannot do anything about them. The second one, 3% move away. Now, unless we're a global business, we can do business anywhere. Then we really can't do anything about that. We can't mow their lawn in California if we live here in Pensacola, right? Or we can't do their plumbing or whatever it may be. But we got to move on. 5% get referred to somewhere else by a friend or relative, and it's really hard to compete with a friend or relative, isn't it? So if your friend or relative recommends somebody to you, you'll switch because you trust that friend or relative. We're not going to compete with that 5%. We're going to lose those 1, 3, and 5%. We're going to lose those. But 9% switch because of a better price or a better product. Now, here's my I'm going to exhort you to not go after that 9%, because if they come to you because of price, they're going to leave you because of, thank you for saying it, price. That's right. And we don't want those people. 9%. You think that would be higher. I think most people think it's like 90%. Although they buy off a price, all my customers buy off a price, I have to compete. Nope, it's 9%. And there's a lot of studies on this. This is a Harvard study. This is not like some schmo, out there trying to do something out of his back porch, some sort of statistics. This is a legitimate study. 9% switch because of price. So don't get all caught up in price wars. Stay away from that. 14% switch because of product, service, or dissatisfaction. This is something we can affect, right? If they're mad or don't like your product, or they don't like your service, they're dissatisfied, we can do better, right? We can up our standards, we can raise the bar, making sure we have a better product, better service, and hopefully we can keep that 14%, or at least most of those people, from leaving by just upping our game. And we need to do that as Christian salespeople and Christian business people anyway. We need to up our game. We should be better than everybody else out there. We should have great products and with great services. And if we don't, we need to stand behind it. We need to make sure we have warranties and guarantees and give their money back. But here's the key. 68% leave because they felt unappreciated, unimportant, or taken for granted. Holy cow, big sirens should be going off. This is gigantic. This is where we should focus the majority of our times. If we want to stop attrition in our business, we need to make sure our customers feel appreciated, important, and that we're not taking them for granted. And it could be as simple as remember that emotional bank account? Is buying them lunch every now and then, taking them to dinner, buy them a coffee, send them a thank you card. How crazy is that? Nobody sends snail mail anymore. Forget the email. Send a snail mail card and tell them thank you for being a customer. No strings attached. You're not asking for more orders or help. You just go give them something and tell them how important they are to you and how much you appreciate them. And you know what? They're the reason why your business exists, right? They're not an interruption in your life. So LL Bean, I have this thing. My mission statement is this. LL Bean says that customer-centric philosophy, in a way that often quoted with the outside of the retail industry, he says this: what is a customer according to LL Bean? Well, a customer is the most important person ever in the company, in person or in mail or on websites. A customer is not dependent upon us. We are dependent upon him. A customer is not an interruption of our work. He is the purpose of it. We are not doing a favor by serving him. He's doing us a favor by giving us the opportunity to do so. A customer is not someone to argue with or match wits with. Nobody ever won an argument with a customer. And a customer is a person who brings us his wants. It is our job to handle them profitably to him and to ourselves. And that makes a good working relationship now, doesn't it? So that's a good definition. I like LL Bean. That's a good definition. So we need to make sure they feel important and appreciated, right? And we'll stop that attrition because it's the new acquisition. There, I think I just raised your business 25 to 35% because you're going to stop losing customers because you're going to do simple things to make them feel important and appreciated. Isn't that awesome? I hope it is. All right, so you can go look it up. There it is, the book, Lessons from the Field, and this is where we get this from. It's not the big things that count that make them live. It's the little things that count. Loyalty is very hard to establish nowadays. Once you have it, don't lose it. So here's a great question, and every business owner, every business professional, every salesperson should be asking this. Why would a prospect do business with me, considering all the other options, including the option of doing nothing at all? And if your immediate answer is customer service, shame, shame, shame on you. Unless you are Zappos.com or Amazon.com or you are these incredible places like Nordstrom's that do amazing things with customer service, like so far above you know Zappos, you can send your shoes back. They'll ship you the shoes for free, right? You get the shoes. If you don't like them, they'll ship them back. They'll pay for the shipping back to them. No questions asked. They'll give all your money back. And you have, I think it's 30 days to do that. Unless you buy it on February 29th in a leap year, then you have 4 years to ship it back. I mean, and that's on their website. Go look up in the terms of service. That's a good guarantee, right? That's a warranty. That's somebody who stands behind their customer service. Now, if you can't do that, if you can't honestly say, I'll pay shipping both ways, if you're not satisfied or something that extreme, then do not say customer service. That can't be your deciding factor of why you stand out according to your competitors. There must be some other unique selling proposition that you have, and I'm going to help you with that, but unless you consistently over-deliver, stop saying customer service. Because I interviewed thousands when I was on radio. I'd sit in front of them, and I love to just ask them about their business. And I would always say, what makes you stand out in front of other businesses from your competitors? Every one of them said customer service, customer service. And I'm like, you know what? I just sat in front of another air conditioning company yesterday, and I asked him the same question. He said the same thing. So you say you have the best customer service in town, and he says that, and I bet if I go interview 5 other air conditioning companies, they're all going to say the same thing. Who's right? Right? And then they all have pretty good customer service. I'm just saying that can't be your deciding factor. You need to come up with some of the USP of what makes you stand out and different from everybody else. And there's lots of ways to do that. We don't have time to get in today. That's a marketing thing, which we'll do a marketing call some other time. But this is a sales call. So, customer service. So what is truly great customer service? So we are no longer competing against moms and pops down the street. We're being judged by the standards that are set by national brands like Apple, Amazon, Zappos, Southwest Airlines, right? Publix, Starbucks, Mr. Rooter, I put them in here because they have incredible customer service. I know there's a couple of them on the line, and they wipe their feet 3 times. They bring their own doormat. This is incredible. So they show up your house in a very nice, clean van that's been washed. They don't smoke. They make sure everything's clean inside too, but they bring their own doormat, set it down in front of your door, ring the doorbell, and then when you open it, you see this Mr. Rooter doormat that's facing you, by the way, which is brilliant. And then they say, hey, I'm with Mr. Rooter. We had an appointment, and they're always on time or early, or they'll call you. They guarantee that. And so they, okay, great, you're here. Then they wipe their feet 3 times, and they put these little booties on before they walk into your house. Is that impressive? I mean, that's customer service, right? But they don't even tout customer service. I mean, they tout a bunch of other stuff, but I mean, they have incredible customer service. But are you doing that? Are you going that extreme? You should be, because that stands out. That's what people talk about, right? That's that factor that goes viral. Man, these guys brought their own doormat. So when they come in as professional, that's what we're being judged against. So if you're in the lawn care business, or if you're in the plumbing business, or if you're in the HVAC business, or if you're selling online marketing, which there's a couple guys on here that's doing that, or some of these other avenues, we got accountants and people that are members. So if you're selling whatever it is, make sure you take it and raise the bar to these national brand levels. We should be, doing what Publix does, Starbucks. That's what we're judged against. Right? We're not judged against mom and pops anymore. We can no longer sell by accident. We have to plan it. We have to have policies, procedures. We need to have scripts, just like I was telling you in the Mr. Reader. Wipe your feet 3 times. Not once, not twice, 3 times. You follow the scripts. Then you put your booties on. Then you leave the sticker. It's amazing what they do. So you follow it. Now, they're not all perfect. Some of their employees want to innovate, which I'm going to tell you later on. Do not innovate, because innovate is how you have failure. Once you're a successful business owner and you move up and you have a very successful business like Apple, then you can innovate. But that's how you get in trouble. You don't need to innovate. You just need to follow the scripts, follow the procedures that you have set in place, that your company has set in place, and then do them to the nth degree. That's the behaviors, right? Set the behaviors and follow it. Don't invent something new. Oh, I'm going to try it a different way. Well, no. Figure out the right way to do it and then follow it. Follow the scripts. I can't stress that enough. Too many people want to, innovate. But all right, let me move on. What are you doing special for new customers, especially ones that came from your marketing and advertising? So, have you ever used a coupon at Bed Bath & Beyond or Chick-fil-A? If you have, you'll know exactly what I'm talking about. They say, "Thank you so much for using this coupon." Have you ever been in a place where you use a coupon and they look at you with the disgust and like, you're going to use a coupon because they feel like their tips are going to be lower or something? I refuse to use coupons. Everybody that knows me knows that I am anti-coupons. To use in my business or to use them anywhere else. And yes, to save you money, and great, you need to save money, but I refuse to use coupons because I've been treated so bad, like I'm scum of the earth for using coupons. Well, if you're going to do that in your business, if you're going to give some sort of whatever it may be, whether it's trade or a gift certificate or something, make sure they feel like kings and queens when they come in for the first time, because you want them to have a great experience, because guess what? They'll come back. Chick-fil-A gets that. Bed Bath & Beyond gets that. Go ahead and try this. Go get one of your old Bed Bath & Beyond coupons that are 20% off. That's like 5 years outdated, and go use it. They don't care. They'll say, "Thank you for using the coupon." It could be 5 years outdated. Same thing with Chick-fil-A. They're going to tell you, "Thank you for using." Now that's customer service, right? Don't make people feel bad for doing something, for coming in, especially your brand new customers. You want them to have the best experience possible once you got them on, because that's what's going to keep them on or keep coming back. So remember, over-deliver, under-promise, over-deliver. All right, so I got to move on here. We still have a lot of stuff to go through here, but we need to gain trust. Remember, people do business with people they know, like, and trust. We gain trust by listening more, and then listen some more, and then listen some more, because it's not about you. And ask good questions that you really care about their business and what they're doing and how they're trying to grow it and how you can help them grow their business or help them in some way, or bring in less pain, right, or whatever it may be, what your service or product does. But make sure you listen and ask those questions. And of course, you need to do what you said you're going to do and more. So I am a big believer to God says to say what you mean what you say, right? And that's, as Christians, we need to be that way. Now, there's been Christians, so-called Christians out there, that have abused the Christian name, right? They're like, I'm a Christian, and then they lie, they cheat, they steal, they don't show up on time, they don't pay their bills, all those problems. That's not you. I'm just bringing that up because just know it's out there. Well, we have been so abused with that Christian name. It's almost embarrassing to say you're a Christian nowadays as a business person, because it may be a negative effect. It used to, 20 years ago, you say you're a Christian, and it actually helped you in business. Well, nowadays they're like, oh, he's a Christian, so they're not going to pay their bills. And I'll be honest with you, in my collections, a big percentage of them are churches and Christian people. That is bad. Now, I'm not here to reprove everybody. I'll get off my soapbox, but don't do that. Do what you say you're going to do, and more. Remember, over deliver. So the other day I was supposed to go out to lunch with a good Christian friend of mine, and I was supposed to be there at 11:30. I was on a phone with one of my big customers. I couldn't get him off the phone, so I was late. Now, that happens, right? But if you say you're going to be there at 11:30, be there at 11:30. And I called him on the way out and apologized. I truly am sorry. So it happens, but you need to respect their time and say, look, I am so sorry. Otherwise, you need to be there at 11:29 because 11:31 you're late. And I'm sorry to be like so black and white on that issue, but say what you mean what you say, and that's how you gain trust. They know that you're a man or a woman of integrity, and that's what you want to be, because we're Christians, and more than that, we're prosperous Christians. And this is the only way to become that way. Okay, so your job is to help them look awesome. The more you realize, even the people that are not the owners and the bosses, the managers or the people that you're working with, help them look awesome. When I was in radio, I knew that's the way to go. All right, listen to me. I'm going to get you a bunch of sales, and the owner's going to love you because you got all this new sales coming in. Great. Help them look awesome. Now, you need to deliver. Make sure you deliver, but it can't be just some words you say. You actually have to actually deliver it and help them make it look awesome, because then they'll be your biggest fans, and those are the ones who are going to give you referrals, right? When you're going into a sales call, do your research. Oh, this is so embarrassing, and I try to help salespeople. They come in my office all the time, and they're like, what do you guys do here, man? I'm like, and it just, could you not at least Google the website and take a look? 5 minutes before you go on a sales call, do some research and have some background, at least some logic to talk with the prospect. It is a complete turn-off when somebody sits in your office and has no idea what you really do, right? Don't be that salesperson, because one, you're going to lose trust immediately. You're done. The guard's going to be up. But the other way, if you have some background and you can talk intelligently about their business, I see you've been in business for 28 years and it looks like you've done this, and that's great. And tell me what else you've been doing. If you have that conversation, one, trust is gained. But two, your integrity goes up and your stock goes up in the eyes of the prospect, doesn't it? Write this down. When values are clear, decisions are easy. When values are clear, decisions are easy. Stop making the water murky. Man, some salespeople love to confuse prospects like you wouldn't believe. Holy cow. It just gets confusing. You got this option, and I've done it. I've been that way. I overwhelm people to begin with because I got so much enthusiasm. But if I start throwing out crazy stuff that they don't care about and too many options, then that's when they make no decision at all. It comes down to, man, let me think about that, and then no decision at all. So when values are clear, though, this is the cost, this is the value, and they know it's a good value for the cost. And when it's clear, decisions are easy. I got to buy this. This is such a good value. This is so good for me and my business. This is so good. This will help me with my pain. I have to buy this because the value is clear. So lead with value. When you finally have a chance to ask all the questions to your prospect, and you got a chance to talk a little bit about your product or service, lead with the value, right? We know this. This is basic sales, but when you understand value is what they care about. That's it. Now, value is the difference between the perceived cost and the actual cost. Just to be clear, value is the difference between the perceived cost and the actual cost of the item or service. So make sure that you have everything priced right, that the value is higher than what the actual cost is. So, or you either need to build more value or lower your costs. And I'm going to tell you the first one is the best way to go. Give them more value for the same cost, and everybody's happy. And this is another writer downer. A confused mind never buys. We know this. I'm the same way. I bought a pool recently, and holy cow, I got several proposals, and man, was I confused, because everybody was talking about the flux capacitor and their their filtration system, and then half the people saying, well, we all do the same stuff. But then I get another person saying, well, no, we don't sell the same stuff at all. We have different filtration systems. We have different liner, whatever it is, whether it's a liner or a gun-eye pool. So I was confused as heck. And guess what? I didn't buy. I put it off for months because I was like, man, I'm going to research this a little bit more. Then eventually I got my head clear. I had a good salesman come out, and I someday I'll tell you about him, but he did everything right. Gave me what the values were clear, and the decisions were easy to make because everything was clear and I wasn't confused. And guess what? I bought a lot at $42,000 worth. Now, of course, I think I got a good deal, but it's not really the deal you get. It's the deal you think you get, right? So I think I got a good deal. Anyway, how do you gain trust? We need to continue to gain trust. So you tell the truth, even if it doesn't benefit you. You give away valuable free stuff, right? So you give them some research. I used to be called an unpaid consultant all the time. My boss went ballistic because I would help these businesses. They're not buying radio advertising from me, but I could help them with their marketing. I would help them with their newspaper ads and their Yellow Page ads, and I'd help them with their marketing for free. And she's like, "What are you doing? You're being an unpaid consultant." I'm like, "But I'm earning their trust." And guess what? Eventually, a lot of them came around. A big majority of them came around because they did like me, they did trust me, and I was giving away free stuff to them because I had no strings attached. I'm like, "Hey, I'll help you with that someday. If I could be of service to you, think of me first." That's what you need to do too. And then make it easy to do business with you. At least stop making it hard to do business with you. I always talk about banks. I don't know if we have any bankers on the phone. Maybe not. But bankers' hours, 9 a.m. to 4 p.m. and like that's miserable. Why would you do that? That's the worst time for a customer to go to the bank, right? We're busy. We're working during the day. You should be open during our hours. It's about us, not about you. Well, the same thing. Fill out this paperwork. Fill out this form. Do this form. You got to do that. Man, stop making it hard for me to do business with you. Make it as easy as possible. Fill out this one-page form, and we'll do the rest for you, and all you do is sit back and we'll handle the rest. That's what you want to say to people, because the more complex you make it and hard to do business with you, the less business you're going to be doing. I promise you that. Now, of course, you make sure you come in under budget and over value. Over-promise, undeliver. We already talked about that. So how do you lose trust? Well, that's easy. You fail to do what you say you're going to do. Pretty much the opposite, right, of what I just went over. You call their baby ugly. Well, not literally. I hope you don't ever do that literally. But I've seen salespeople do this. I actually had somebody do this a couple of weeks ago. He come in my office, and let's say I'm using another competitor of yours. Well, you come in and start bashing them, right? Well, you dingbat. I made the decision. I made the decision to use that company. You might not want to call my baby ugly, right? So you're basically insulting me that I was too stupid. I was stupid to buy that company or use that company, and that I should use you. Bingo! Guess what? You're gone. Blam! Out of my office because you just called my baby ugly. Now you may be right. That's the problem. You may be right. Yeah, that company stinks, and I may agree with you. But the moment you start ripping on a decision that I made, in other words, tell me I'm stupid or tell me I'm ignorant or I made a wrong decision, that's the moment you're going to lose trust.